I saw a hornet. I pulled the trigger. Oh, come on, baby. What have we got here? What do we got here? Oh, I saw a hornet. I pulled the trigger. Oh, what do we got? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Hold on, I gotta put him out of his misery. Hold on.
What do you think, Dad? Oh, jeez.
Hi guys, my name is Sandvil. I'm 21 years old. I'm a golf cart mechanic. I work out of Laconia, New Hampshire. Right now I live in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. I've been hunting since I don't even know when, before I can remember. I know I had my hunting license when I was 9 years old. That's when my twin brother Nate shot his first deer. I remember that clear as day. But these are the two of my best bucks I've gotten so far. This one I shot in 2020, double teaming with Nate. Shot him tracking. It was a good morning. We finally got snow, high elevation. We didn't really have it low elevation, and so we went high elevation. Just put on a bunch of miles trying to cut a track. Didn't find nothing, so we ended up hopping in the truck, even going higher elevation because we started losing snow because it was getting, midday, and then we ended up cutting his track from the road, and it was basically a horseshoe set of road. Like the road we went up, and then it horseshoed. And so what we did, and we found him at the bottom of the horseshoe. So what we did is we did road work just like anybody would, and we went both sides of the horseshoe, didn't cut his track. So, between the 2 points of the horseshoe, his track would be. But it was so windy and just crazy wind. It was a killer day, killing day, as they say. So we ended up crossing the U, could not find his track. And then when we came back up to the side of the U that we parked on, his track came across the edge of the cut. So it was blown right over, and we never saw it until Nate came back up and went underneath the small spruce tree, which he had gone under. So it was a super, it was just a perfect, if we had walked 5 feet to the right, we wouldn't even have seen his track. So anyways, we cut his track, start going, and it was every 10 to 15 feet we could see a little dimple in the snow. That's how, windy and, nasty the storm was. And we didn't go very far before he found his first bed. And walking tracks out, but it was a big bed. We knew it was a nice buck, and then we go a little bit farther, and he makes a rub, and so Nate's filming the rub, I'm filming the rub. Now we know for a fact he's a buck, and so anyways, we don't go much farther. Nate's behind me, probably 50 yards, because I just kept going. I want to get this deer, and so he was just barely shutting off his phone from filming, and I come around a corner and the beach whips, and I had no idea he was there, and he had no idea I was there, but he was about 15 yards laying in his bed. I just remember seeing his face turning back, but he wasn't even looking at me. It's just perfect killing day. Wind was whipping, the beach whips were making so much noise. We're at the highest elevation there, and he was literally probably at the highest elevation just about, so he had no idea I was there. I pull up my 30-30, pull back the hammer, and I just remember putting it right on his neck, pulling the trigger. And when I came around the corner, I just remember I couldn't believe it. When I came around the corner and I saw the spread, it was by far the biggest buck I'd shot at the time. And so just the excitement, and then Nate being there was just awesome, because I got to celebrate that with Nate. And this was 2020, so this was the year of graduation, graduating high school. And so he came around the corner, we celebrated. There's actually a video on YouTube, but no, we celebrated, and I couldn't believe it. I was in shock, actually. Most deer I go right up to right when I first shoot them, and this one I didn't go right up to, and just because of how much shock I was in. And I was just in unbelief, really. And we went up to him, got up to him, and that's, you know, he was curled up in his bed, but it wasn't until we gutted him and then pulled him is when I realized, like, this is a big deer, you know. And anyways, brought him back to camp, didn't tell anybody that we shot a deer, didn't tell anybody. Me and he dragged him out, got him back to camp. I wanted to surprise my dad. I wanted to surprise everybody, but I really wanted to surprise my dad with it because it's by far the biggest buck I'd shot. And so got back to camp and waiting for everybody to get back. Finally, my dad gets back. My dad is a sitter dark to dark, so he didn't get back until like it was over an hour after it got dark. So we surprised them with it. We told them it was a moose antler in the bed of the truck, and it sure as heck was better than a moose antler. But we surprised him, and then we didn't really have time between celebrating and him, you know, telling him the story. By the time we were done, we didn't have time to weigh it. So the next morning, me and Nate jumped on another buck track before we went to go weigh him because it was just perfect conditions. So anyways, we ended up coming out of the woods. We went and weighed him, and he weighed 238.5. So that was after about 24 hours of, you know, after the kill. So you know, I don't know how much he would have weighed, but he still weighed right up at 238.5. So I'm not going to complain about that number. But yeah, that was my first 200-pounder, first deer tracking. So I was very blessed and lucky with that. And I know Nate obviously had a huge involvement because Nate started tracking before I did, and he's the one that really kind of pushed me to it because my dad we always sat, and my dad would move a little bit, but it's hard. Me and Nate are twins, so my dad having two people in the woods to teach how to walk through the woods, you know, and be quiet and not as much. It's hard to track with three people, especially two kids. So it was always just sitting as a kid, and then Nate kind of got into it, and he shot his first 200-pounder tracking. So he definitely helped get me into it, that's for sure. And after that, I was hooked. There was no question about it. That's the only thing I wanted to do. So, but yeah, no, that's the story on that deer. I think he's, I don't know, 8-7 pointer, 21-inch spread. Definitely a good buck. And they aged him at like, I have his jaws downstairs. I should have brought him up, but I think they aged him at about 4. I think 4.5 is what they said. So he's definitely been eating good. He had definitely a good track on him, but I wouldn't say it would have been a track that you would have said that's a 240-pound deer, but it was still a decent track. I'd take it anywhere. But there's that. That's that. And then this one is this would be my 2023. Yeah, 2023 deer. This is last year's deer. He weighed 241, dressed out, completely clean, just like both of them. That's how Maine does it. So 241. Yeah, I was another in awe with this deer. But the story's not as exciting on this one. I wish it was, but earlier in this, we go up once a week or once a year for a whole week up in Maine every year. And I believe this is the second time I'd seen this deer that week. We didn't get snow till Thursday night because I shot him Friday morning. So Tuesday night it rained all day, and I hunted all day. I was in the woods all day long. I can't remember how many miles I put on. And I remember getting back to my truck, and I had my buddy with me, and it was dry ground, and we're driving along, coming out of this spot that I like to hunt, not far from where I shot him. It's just been a consistent, 2021 and 2022, I missed 2 deer a year in this spot. So it's just been a consistent, I'm seeing bucks, I'm shooting at, I'm seeing them, I'm just not hitting them. I'm a bad shot. So, so we're in that spot, we're leaving that spot now, and it's like 10, 15, probably half an hour before it gets, completely dark. And I'm like, looking over at my buddy as I'm driving out of this path. We're going only 10 miles an hour maybe. And as I look over to him, because we're talking, and I just see this deer, this buck, just running alongside of the truck. And he, of course, runs right past the truck, but not out in front, hooks a right. And so, I jump out and I load my gun and I take off running. And as I come around the corner, I look about 80 yards between two trees. He's just standing there broadside. And I'm going to tell you that it's this deer. I'm convinced it's this deer, but I don't know for a fact. You're never going to know. I wasn't able to get my hands on him, but I just pulled up my gun, and my scope was fogged. So but he just stood there broadside, and then for about a couple seconds, and then took off. But it was a buck of this caliber, if not this caliber. So that was Tuesday. That would have been Tuesday night. So then Wednesday I hunted, Thursday I hunted, and then Thursday night we got snow. So Friday morning I was up at it was before anybody else was even awake in the camp. I was gone. And I was looking for tracks just like anybody would be. And so I scoured this whole area that I saw that deer, which is the same area I've been hunting anyways. And I checking for tracks, found a bunch of tracks, but nothing that I would know, but okay, that's him, you know? And so I come back to the main road, and I started going down the main road, and I see this road that goes off to my left that I've never even been on. I don't know why I've never been on it, because I've hunted this place for years. And so I slammed on the brakes and I swerved in there, and it didn't take long, and there was a doe track, fresh, smoking fresh doe track that came out on the road, and she just started walking down the road. So I started following her, getting out, checking to see if there's a buck on her, and then following her. And so I get to the end of that. Well, I get to the end where people turn around, and I kept going because that's just the way I am. I'll push my truck right to the limit. So I kept going, and sure enough, I get to the end of the road, and her track goes straight. So I hop on onX. I'm sitting there looking on onX. You know, okay, this is where I marked the tracks. I had 4 doe tracks that crossed the road. I'm thinking it's in an area that I missed an absolute slob in 2021. And that's where they were headed down into, is where I missed him, and there was 4 doe tracks. So I'm thinking to myself, you know, if there's 4 does, that's the best I'm gonna get. So I'll go down there, hope a buck picked them up, you know. So I was gonna head back to there. So I decided that. So I looked at the pin, figure out which way is the best way to get back. Put my phone down, slap the truck in reverse, start to back up, and I'm at this small end of this landing. It's not even a road, so I'm trying to turn my truck around, and as I'm glancing from my right, I remember my right mirror to my left mirror as I'm backing up, and as I do, I just catch movement right in front of me, probably 80 yards, and so I slam the truck in park, and I look, and it's a deer, and it's moving, you know, it's not full speed running, but it's you know, it's running, just not bounding. And all of a sudden I thought I saw a flash of horn, and I'm like, I couldn't believe it, because that doe track went straight, and you know, I know it was a doe track. It couldn't have been a buck, at least a buck that I would have seen horns. And so I jump out, I reach back in, grab my 35, grab the clip out of the center console, and I take off running as I'm loading the gun. And I remember I was running, I jumped over this small spruce tree, and I see a deer, you know, skirt, just straight, it was straight in front of me. And turns out that doe was standing right there that I was tracking with my truck, you could say, or whatever. She was right there. That's why he didn't leave, just because she was right there. And I don't know if she was in heat or not, but either way, it's funny because he had sat there and watched me. But anyways, I pulled out my gun, and the next opening he went through, I just saw horn. And of course, from the side, he doesn't have much of a profile. He's got, you know, his G2, it's got some length to it, but you know, these points have no length to it. So I didn't even think he was that big. And so I touched off around, and this was Friday morning, and we leave Saturday. So I touched off around, and I run up, and as I'm running up, I thought I saw him drop, but I get there, and when I get there, he had completely flipped over backwards, but his head was behind a spruce tree. So it wasn't until I was from here to I don't know, call it 5-10 feet, was when I really truly realized how big he was. And that's when I just was like, okay, this is I went into shock. I ended up throwing up, because I've never thrown up over a deer, I'll put it that way, but this deer I threw up over, because I knew instantly I just shot not only an age class buck, but it just, the way it all went down, it was such a fast, it was just a fast blur of excitement and adrenaline, and I was not expecting it. I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't even looking for a deer. It's funny, I was in reverse, you know, backing up and looking for tracks, but I guess that was just my luck that day, and I was just very blessed to harvest this deer. But but yeah, no, 241 dressed, and they said he had 11 points, and I think he scored 136 at the at the Classic, I believe, is what he was scored out to be, as a mainframe 6 or whatever. So, because I guess all these are spare points, but he's definitely a fighter at some point because he's got some broken off points on this side. But yeah, I was by myself, so I ended up somehow managing to get him loaded into the bed of my truck with a cap by myself and 2 ratchet straps, but I ended up breaking 1 ratchet strap, getting him in. So that was pretty. I still have a scar on my back from scraping my back on the tunnel, not the tunnel cover, but the cap. And it's funny because the only person I could get in contact with is my twin brother, and he was in Colorado, and so that was no help to getting the deer loaded. But I ended up, like I said, throwing up, but I was on the phone with him when I did that, and then I was able to get the deer out, and then the first person I drove to was my dad, so that was good. He was like a mile in the woods, which is a decent ways for him to go, and probably a little bit more. I think it's more like 2 miles up that road, and it's funny because when I shot the deer and I finally got in contact with him, he had just sat down at his spot. So he's like, his comment was, "You always wait till I get to my spot to shoot a deer," and then he had to walk all the way back. But it was a good time, and yeah, just it wasn't the most exciting hunt, but I'm definitely very blessed with the deer, and that's for sure. I still can't believe it when I still look at the rack. I'm like, I just can't believe I shot that deer. So. But yeah, no. So that's my 2 best deer for sure. All the other ones have just been just as memorable though, even though they're not as big. They're just as memorable because, shooting them with my brother and my dad is just the best way to do it. That's for sure. Thanks for watching, and yeah, hopefully we'll get some more content for you guys. Thank you.
I want to know, do you and your brother wait till I get to my spot every time?
Yeah, you gotta.
That is an absolute beast.
Oh yeah, look at his bases.
Dude,
Look at that.
he looks almost prehistoric.
Oh, I know.
Like these are like somehow shark teeth or something.
I know. Look at the mass. Like, this is my dream buck. Just gnarly, thick horn. I don't want one that scores a lot. He's not going to score a whole lot, but...
No, he's got all this character.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and I got in a little fight right there.
Oh, yeah. That's what happens when you're chasing women. You get in trouble.
Amen, brother.